President Obama is set to be the campaigner-in-chief and hit the campaign trail hard for Hillary Clinton in the general election. Can he help her win over the young who are restless and less than enthused with her? And then Donald Trump better get himself into a New York state of mind, because for the first time in a long time, New York State could actually matter in the primaries, and it could decide whether he gets enough delegates to sew this thing up before Cleveland. And then the story of a local hero, an Army veteran who was awarded a number of medals, served in Kuwait and Iraq, oversaw an Iraqi prison, then returned home and was honored by Rockland County for her service overseas and in her community. Good evening and welcome to RFL. I'm Andrew Whitman, in once again for Richard French. He has won twice and now he wants to get one for Hillary. President Obama is reportedly set to campaign heavily for Hillary Clinton in the general election. He's already starting to get involved, as evidenced by this not-so-subtle dig at Donald Trump.
I know that I'm not the only one in this room who may be more than a little dismayed about what's happening on the campaign trail lately. We have heard vulgar and divisive rhetoric aimed at women and minorities, at Americans who don't look like us or pray like us or vote like we do.
Maybe the president can help Hillary with young voters. A 74-year-old guy named Bernie is crushing her in the youth vote, and the young folks formed part of the coalition that helped catapult President Obama into the White House a couple of times. In the primary, she's also struggling to get white men to vote for her. That could be particularly troublesome if she faces Donald Trump, as that's a pretty strong point for him. Let's get to our panel for some discussion and analysis. Democratic New York State Senator David Carlucci is with us. He's sponsoring bills that would automatically register voters at the DMV and also pre-register 16 and 17-year-olds when they get driver's licenses or permits. Next to him, Dominic Carter, political journalist and author. Jerry McKinstry is here. Jerry was recently named managing director of the November Team. That's a Republican-leaning political consulting group run by friends of the show Bill O'Reilly and Jessica Proud. Among them, Republican State Assemblyman Kieran Lawler, who represents portions of Dutchess County. Welcome back to the program, all. Let's start with President Obama's role in the election for Hillary Clinton. Obama's at 51% approval rating, according to Gallup. That's the highest he's been in a while. Senator, how much do you think Hillary will be banking on President Obama's involvement? How much does she need him?
Well, I mean, in the primaries, it's been quite a bit. You know, she's been showing herself as the continuation of Barack Obama. I imagine after the primaries, that'll shift somewhat, but it's about getting people excited. And, you know, we can have the talk about Hillary Clinton, how exciting is she, and Trump, how exciting is he. I think at the end of the day, when you see these primaries and you see people coming out to vote either for Trump or against Trump, I think that you got to take him seriously. There's no question about it. However, I think there's going to be a lot of people staying home in November if Trump is the Republican nominee.
Assemblyman, how much of a double-edged sword is President Obama's involvement for Hillary Clinton? I mean, his critics have certainly been sniping at him for 7 years now.
Well, you know, if you listen to the rhetoric on the Democrat side, they're talking about how the poor have been left behind, how inequality has been increasing, but their guy has been in the White House for the last 7 years. Hillary was a part of that administration for half the time. You mentioned the president's approval ratings. That's because nobody's paying attention to him. All the focus every night is on the presidential election, and people have kind of forgotten to tune in to the current president. And what I don't think that President Obama can save Secretary Clinton. There used to be a saying about how the parties pick their presidential nominees. Democrats fall in love and Republicans fall in line. In other words, the Democrats get excited about a candidate and pick somebody out of nowhere, like Barack Obama, and Republicans pick the next one in line. But now the Democrats have done that with Hillary. It's very difficult to get people excited about the person who is the next in line.
But Dominic, President Obama might not help move voters who are in the middle, but he can pretty well rally the Democratic base, can't he?
Obama would be the Republicans' worst nightmare, and here's why. Any Democrat coming after Obama, they need that record black turnout that Obama produced in 08 and 12, and you mentioned the young people. Who's better to motivate those two different groups than this current president? Now, yes, he may motivate the Republican base a little bit to turn out, but something has to offset Trump's enthusiasm in terms of all the new voters that are coming in. So when Obama goes across America on the stump, let's be honest, that's when he is at his best, when he's on the stump. And when he says this amounts to another term for my policies and practices, his base is going to eat that up.
You know, the two groups of voters that we were talking about with Hillary having an issue, young voters and white men. White men, I'm not sure a Democratic nominee has carried white men since the 70s or the 60s. So let's put that group aside. But Jerry, how big of a problem is the lack of enthusiasm and the results against Hillary among younger voters, and how much do you think they're worried at headquarters in Brooklyn?
Oh, they're clearly worried. I mean, it's a big problem. I mean, that's the rise of Bernie Sanders. I mean, he is a real candidate who has been very competitive, and we can, you know, I think right now they're talking about Hillary, you know, sort of being the shoo-in right now, but it's still a little bit competitive, and it's the young people that are following him. So I think this is an effort to slowly get some of those young voters back to Hillary.
And at some point, Senator, Bernie Sanders, assuming that he loses, which it looks like he's not going to be the nominee for the Democratic Party, will endorse Hillary Clinton, and you would think come out on the trail for her. Bernie's going to play a big role in getting trying to stir up young voters for Hillary again.
I would imagine so. I think Bernie Sanders is going to stay with it to the end. I think what's exciting young people is this change, something different, right? You know, obviously we've all known Hillary Clinton for a long time, so there's a lot of good things that she's done. There's a lot of things that people don't like as well. So I think Bernie Sanders would definitely try to help Hillary Clinton. I agree with Dominic. I think if President Obama gets out there, he can excite a lot of people, and that's what's important. We need everyone to come out and vote, and that's something I wanted to talk to you about in New York. We lag behind in the nation in terms of voter participation.
So give me the back of the envelope description of what your bill would do in terms of increasing youth vote or automatic vote.
If you look at the issue, right, in New York State, we lag behind almost every other state when it comes to the percentage of people that are eligible that actually go out to vote. If you dig a little deeper, what you notice is that not just voter participation rates, but voter registration rates, we lag far behind. That young demographic we just talked about, 18 to 24-year-olds, less than 50% of eligible 18 to 24-year-olds are even eligible or even registered to vote. Now, why is this important? Look, April 19th is coming up, the presidential primary. In order to be eligible to vote in that election, you have to register by next week. A lot of people are not going to register, especially the young people. When it comes time that they know they can participate in an election, it's too late.
But the more young people who vote, the more that helps your party. How much of this is a partisan push among Democrats to try to get a new generation of voters into the party?
I mean, look, getting more people involved in the process, I think, is a healthy thing. I'm the first one to say, look, I'm a Democrat, but I don't believe that Democrats have a monopoly on good ideas. I work with Republicans that have got good ideas that we can move our country, our state forward. Getting more people involved in the process, I think, is a good thing. All we have to do is look to other states. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. We can do it right here in New York by having people, once they enroll for their driver's license, have them enrolled, ready to vote. And then if they decide to vote, that's their choice.
Assemblyman, what's your take? Is this a civic responsibility issue, or is this a partisan, this helps Democrats?
I think a younger voter is more likely to vote for Democrats. I'm not excited to see the volume of turnout so much as I am excited to see informed voters going to the polls. And let's face it, an 18-year-old is more likely to be a low information voter than a high information voter, and we need less people at the polls who want to spend, because on the whole, 18, 19, 20-year-olds are not paying taxes, so they're going to be all for spending, and that's not something that I can support.
And if somebody were to say in response to that, you're trying to depress vote, I mean, why shouldn't we make it as easy for as many people to vote as possible?
Well, it's pretty easy now. I mean, millions of us have figured it out. I don't know why these 18-year-olds can't figure it out. You know what would get more people in the process, especially in New York State? Get rid of the arcane, incumbent protecting ballot rules. To get on the ballot, you're an upstart candidate. There's all these rules, and if you've been in politics your whole life, you can navigate the petitioning process and get enough petitions. But if you're new to the process, it's very difficult. It's an incumbent protection racket. If you make it easier for new, fresh people to get on the ballot, then you'll see turnout improve naturally.
Jerry, why shouldn't we make it easier for young people to become registered?
I think we should. You know, I agree with both of them actually, and I'll give an example. Yeah. When I registered for classes at SUNY, I was 18 years old or 17 or something. I guess it was going on 18. They put a registration form right there. If that was not put there, I think it would have been probably a few years before I registered. I tend to think younger people are influenced by their parents, by their circles, so I'm okay with that. I think we definitely want to get more voters, more people registered. Ideally, they'd be well informed, but I mean, I see no harm in having them register early.
Dominic? You know, Andrew, I agree with Jerry. Both of our elected officials tonight are accurate to the degree of what they said. Let me start with the Republican side for a second. Every time on a Saturday, when you're at a supermarket and the folks walk up and say, could you please sign this petition? Most people don't understand what it's about. I'm sure some do. But the Assemblyman is correct. It's a racket. And this is what we alluded to the other night, where it protects incumbents. It's almost impossible to beat them. You need millions to do so. And all the arcane rules is ridiculous. But to the senator's point of view, and I want people to understand what he said. Okay, the Donald Trump train is coming to New York. All the excitement, New York is in play. Yeah. Okay, but like the senator just said, if you're not registered by next week, all that excitement does not apply to you. So think about that for a second. If you're, the deadline is next week, you said,
right,
Senator?
next Friday.
Next Friday. So if you're not registered, when all the tabloids turn their attention to Trump even more than what they have, you're not part of the game.
It's a wonderful segue you've led me to, Dominic, because on the other side of the break, Trump is out in front and by far, but can he win in his own backyard? We'll explain why the primaries here could be of primary importance to the Donald.